10 News is brought to you in high definition exclusively by Harper Auto Square. You are watching WBIR TV, Channel 10, Knoxville. The news starts now.
This decision was the right decision.
A coach's past catches up. Donnie Tyndall is out at Tennessee after less than a year.
What Donnie did was wrong, but was it worth him getting fired over?
The search begins again for the fourth coach in as many years.
This is a terrific community and an unbelievably passionate and loyal fan base. And they have to respond to that willingly and with enthusiasm.
The headline of the day, Donnie Tyndall fired. Good evening, I'm Robin Wilhoit.
And I'm John Becker, live on the UT campus, where we learned that head coach for UT had been fired at about 11 o'clock today in Thompson Bowling Arena. This firing comes amid an NCAA investigation into Coach Tyndall's tenure at Southern Miss. He spent just 11 months with that program. He released a statement within the last hour to 10 News, saying in part, "I'm extremely saddened by my separation from Tennessee. I apologize to my players, assistant coaches, and the entire UT community." That past occurrences led to today's result. UT Athletic Director Dave Hart says he understands that fans are upset. He says he feels those same emotions.
That anger, that frustration, that disappointment that is being felt, believe me, I feel those emotions, very much so.
Back here live on UT's campus, we bring in 10 Sports Director Nick Carboni. And Nick, we knew something like this had been brewing for quite some time. We didn't know it would be quite this dramatic right now.
Yeah, absolutely. This investigation has been going on, John, for about 4 months. You track it back to its initially being reported back in November. But the decision for Dave Hart to fire Donnie Tyndall came pretty quickly yesterday after he talked to the NCAA, and the NCAA gave him their findings into its investigation into Donnie Tyndall and his time at Southern Mississippi. Dave Hart says he came to the decision to terminate Donnie Tyndall late last night and did so at 7 o'clock this morning.
This decision was the right decision for the University of Tennessee.
In a termination letter addressed to Donnie Tyndall, Dave Hart outlines what the NCAA told him it had found in its investigation of Donnie Tyndall's time at Southern Miss. It says Tyndall admitted to deleting emails from his Southern Miss account while Tennessee's coach sometime in November, emails he knew the NCAA would be requesting for its investigation. That failure to cooperate with an NCAA investigation is a Level 1 violation, the most severe in the NCAA's policy, and Hart decided the sanctions that would be placed on Tyndall would be too much for Tennessee to bear.
We were hoping for a better outcome, a lot better outcome, of course, than the one we got.
The termination letter also says under the NCAA's head coach control policy, Tyndall was responsible for impermissible financial aid benefits being given to student athletes who were, at the time, academically ineligible at Southern Miss.
Based on the information we had, it was a decision we had to make, and we made it. The NCAA doesn't say, hey, here's what we think. They don't get involved in personnel issues or campus decisions. So we made the decision based on the information available.
Because Tyndall has been found highly likely to have committed Level 1 and 2 violations, UT was able to terminate him with cause and avoid paying his $3 million buyout. They saved the money, but now must hire their fourth coach in 4 years.
And one of the things we've strived for is to get stability. And we had hoped when we hired Donnie that we would have that element in our men's basketball program. That is not how it has panned out as we stand here today.
All right, John, a couple of important notes to hit on really quickly. Hart was asked if the NCAA indicated that any violations were committed by Donnie Tyndall during his time at Tennessee. Hart says the indication there, all indications were that there had not been any. Al Pinkins, and the senior-most assistant with Donnie Tyndall, but one without any connections to his past at Southern Mississippi or Morehead State. Pinkins was at Ole Miss. Pinkins will be the interim head coach during this coaching search. And speaking of that coaching search, Dave Hart says he will use a search firm for the first time in his administrative career.
And saying in that press conference, no timeline for that search at the moment.
Right. Final Four coming up. That's where a lot of the shuffling goes on. So they're not in a horrible spot, but obviously not a spot they want to be in.
10 Sports Director Nick Carboni. More from you a little bit later in the hour. Thanks very much. We're going to turn to Nick's colleague now in the Northwest. Courtney Lyle is covering the Lady Vols as they get set for their Sweet 16 appearance. That game tipping off tomorrow. The team meeting with the media today. Courtney, let's check in with you now and what you know about the Lady Vols and what they're saying about that game.
While there's certainly a lot going on with the men's basketball program in Knoxville, on the other side of the country, here in Spokane, Washington, the Lady Vols have a lot on their plate, too. Tennessee is preparing for an appearance in the Sweet 16 on Saturday, where they'll face Gonzaga. Holly Warlick and her team will have about 90 minutes to practice today at Spokane Arena, and they arrived a few moments ago and started addressing the media, so we'll hear their thoughts on the matchup, plus playing in Spokane. That's coming up later in sports, but for now, we'll send it back to you.
Courtney Lyle reporting from the Great Northwest. Thank you, Courtney. And we're going to check back in with her, certainly coming up in sports tonight. But for now, back to Coach Tyndall, who is now former UT men's basketball coach Tyndall. This news spreading on campus like wildfire, but for some, they heard the news from reporters this morning. That's how quickly it broke. We're going to turn to my colleague Kelsey Pape, who has more reaction from campus. Kelsey?
Well, hello, John. You know what? I spoke to a number of students this morning, and the reaction was actually much the same. A lot of shock, disappointment, and as we all mentioned before, a lot of anger. Many students are blaming the athletic department, saying, why would you hire a coach like this in the first place? Now, others are actually saying the NCAA is being way too hard on the University of Tennessee.
Like every single thing that goes wrong, it happens. I mean, like, we get the consequence for it. Some, like, schools get away with stuff, but everything we have go wrong, we get the consequence.
Tennessee's a place that kind of gets picked on by the NCAA. Bruce Pearl got fired for lying about a barbecue.
The news that UT head basketball coach Donnie Tyndall has been fired has spread like wildfire.
But like in my first class, the teacher, like the professor announced it.
Some finding out on social media, others stunned after we broke the news.
All right, Donnie Tyndall got fired.
Regardless of how they're learning about it, the news stirred lots of emotion.
Shock. I thought he was going to be like here for a really long time, so I was just really confused, actually.
He's a good guy and his staff, but you know, when it's NCAA involved, it's just one of those things that I just hate to see him go, but you can't have him hanging around like that with violations.
He was very passionate about coaching, so I'm sad and disappointed.
Some students are blaming Dave Hart and the UT athletic department.
I just don't understand how his logic behind some of these moves.
I think it always starts from like the top, so maybe we should check into that a little bit more. But
others are rallying to bring back a coach that is very familiar with the color orange.
I want to see Bruce Pearl come back because when he was here, we're #1 in the nation, and when he's not here, we're not.
But most of all, students want stability.
We have to have somebody who's going to come here and stay here, kind of like a Butch Jones type guy who's going to rebuild this program and stay here and run it cleanly.
And John, that's exactly what you heard Dave Hart talk about earlier in the newscast, that stability. He said that he will be looking for a coach with a clean slate, and that is something that I'm sure the students are going to be holding him to. Back to you.
Kelsey Pape with student reaction on the UT campus. And important to underline here as well that Dave Hart's boss, the chancellor at the University of Tennessee, Jimmy Cheek, underlining his support for the athletic director today, saying in a couple of statements that he fully supports Dave Hart, underlining his importance to this university as a fundraiser and also the academic achievement that we've seen the student athletes achieve over Dave Hart's tenure of less than 4 years is admirable. Robin, that's our coverage from campus for now. Much more to come. We'll send it back to you for now.
Yes, much more coverage. All right, John, thanks so much. So the question begs, what is next for the UT basketball program? Athletic Director Dave Hart says the university will use, as you heard, a search firm to find the next coach. He says he wants someone with a consistent and successful track record. However, he did not give specifics as far as terms of a time frame for when he expects to find that new coach. As John said, our coverage continues all night right here on 10 News and at WBIR.com. Coming up at 5:30, Dave Hart on what he expects for his future at UT. Then at 6, live coverage from the UT campus. It continues, plus the latest from Spokane as the Lady Vols prepare for their Sweet 16 dance. To the forecast now, people pulled out their jackets as this morning began on a very cool note. And yes, there is a chance for freezing temperatures tonight. Let's check in with meteorologist Todd Howe out on the weather porch, minus the coat right now, though. Right, Todd?
I tell you what, yeah, I've got my my work coat, my jacket, so to speak. But I tell you what, yeah, you need the heavier coats and jackets, maybe the toboggan and the gloves, believe it or not. Go ahead and treat it like you would on any other winter night, because that's what we're going to see. Temperatures upper 20s, a little bit of a breezy wind. Believe it or not, a light wintry mix is even possible. Some light rain could mix with some light snow flurries overnight tonight, right? Light snow showers, the mountains, maybe a couple of inches there. Well, first of all, we do have a freeze warning that has been issued for just about all of East Tennessee, except for the highest elevation in the mountains. The fruit trees haven't bloomed out yet. That's just a matter of time before that comes. All right, meanwhile, the plateau has a hard freeze. Here's what we're looking at. Lower 20s along the plateau, upper 20s in the valley, a lighter freeze, but a freeze warning all areas. So cover up those plants and flowers, anything that is flowered or already bloomed out. You need to protect that tonight. And we'll do it again tomorrow night. Another freeze likely tomorrow night. 50 in Oak Ridge, 49 in Knoxville, 41 in Crossville, 23 tonight in Crossville, 29 the low tonight. So again, a hard freeze in some areas tonight and again tomorrow night. Hopefully it'll start to warm up down the road. I'll be back with that full forecast in a moment. Robin?
All right, Todd, thank you. Well, it's certainly going to be a chilly start to the Covenant Health Knoxville Marathon coming up this weekend. That course is starting to form as of today, and there are a couple of things that people should remember, whether they are running in the race or not. WBIR 10 News reporter Jeff Monlock joins us. Jeff, you are going to be one of the thousands running in this race on Sunday.
I am indeed. I'm going to be running in the half marathon. I don't think I'm ready for the full marathon just yet, but along with Missy Kane's biggest winter team, I will be running in the half marathon. We've been training for this since November. This race is taking up a lot of time for us for training, but it's also taking up a big part of town. And whether, like you mentioned, whether you're running in the race or not, it could be impacting you. And the race happens to fall on Palm Sunday, and which could get tricky for a lot of traffic going around because of road closures.
It's been around for 11 years. Race director Jason Altman works to set up all of the water stops along with the rest of the course.
It's kind of a crazy day. We're out, picking up stuff and then receiving deliveries and, driving half a dozen trucks all over town, just trying to get everything set and ready to go for the weekend.
This year, the big run lines up with Palm Sunday, one of the busier services for local churches, which causes some concerns when it comes to road closures.
We do start and finish downtown, but we, in addition to campus and Fort Sanders, we're out west to Sequoia Hills, we're south in Island Home, we're north and 4th and Gill and Park Ridge. So there's a little bit of kind of, rolling road closures throughout the day just as the participants come through.
Church Street Methodist Church is just down the road from the starting line. When the race first began, the congregation had its concerns.
I think at first it was kind of a shock because usually Sunday mornings in downtown Knoxville there's not a lot of traffic, so I think people were not used to that.
This year, they found a way to incorporate it into their service.
A couple of our pastors and several of our Sunday school classes are going to meet and walk down to the race course. It is Palm Sunday, so we're going to wave palms. We have signs for the runners. We have a lot of runners on staff, and we know how important that course support is, especially right there at the finish line, so we're looking forward to offering that encouragement.
Altman says that other churches have also adapted that fall along the race route itself.
They work water stations and course monitors and just spectators in general.
Keeping the spirit of the race alive while keeping the faith.
And for a full list of road closures, you can go to our website, WBIR.com, and it'll have it all listed on there for you. Robin?
And we are going to be cheering you all along the way, Jeff. Thanks so much. All right, we want to check in with Ed Rupp. He has a look at your Friday ride home. How are things shaping up for us, Ed?
Hey, Robin, we're doing pretty well for our Friday afternoon. Now, Interstate's a little slower than normal. We'll show you drive times in a second here. We had a wreck earlier, almost an hour ago, 40 eastbound down near Gallagher View, but it didn't take things long to get messed up there. So still a little slow on that eastbound side. So far, so good as you come out of downtown. That westbound side starting to back up. That's just typical Friday stuff there. Got a wreck at Ebenezer at Westland they're working on. Also one CAK at Sherrill Boulevard. For our neighbors up at Oak Ridge, there's a wreck on the Turnpike at Tyler. See, our drive times on 40 have dipped down into the yellow. They are pretty low there on the eastbound side, down to 36 miles an hour. We'll keep you updated in the 10 News Traffic Center. Robin?
Ed, have a good weekend. Thank you. New details into the investigation as to why a co-pilot intentionally crashed a plane into the French Alps earlier this week. Coming up, what authorities discovered inside his home that could mean he never should have gone to work that day. Plus, a longtime member of the United States Senate decides not to seek re-election. The latest on Harry Reid's announcement that he plans to retire.